Welcome to the Well-Oiled Canine Podcast, where your dog's health is our top priority. I'm Dana Brigman, a canine nutritionist and certified holistic pet health coach, specializing in aromatherapy, homeopathy, and herbs. Join me on a mission to help your dog eat better, feel better, and live longer. Now, let's dive into a world of natural pet care and discover the secrets to a happier, healthier pup. Visit me at welloiledcanine.com. Everyone, I am Dana Brigman from the Well-Oiled Canine, and I have my friend and fellow trainer, behaviorist, nutrition understudy,
all of the above.
things wellness, Angela Keith she's from Wilmington, and her business is 456 Canine Wellness Coaching. Is that right? I mean, I know it's long.
Yeah, for the legal names, 456 Canine Wellness and Behavior Coach.
God, that's a long name.
It is 456 Canine Coach.
We'll get her Facebook or website or whatever link she has soon shared to everyone so that you can reach out to her as well. So we'll see those when we post. So Angela, just say hi and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do in your business.
Sure. So, hey everyone, glad you're here. Can't wait to just have some good topics to share with everybody. So as Dana kind of mentioned, I'm here because of Dana. Everything that she knows and has shared and helped me to learn over the years led me to doing animal behavior training and then getting into all of the wellness part, nutrition, everything to tie it all back into one. So I went from being in rescue and just fostering dogs and working on behavioral stuff for shelter dogs to now I've got my own gig and I'm taking in training dogs, and I'm actually still helping with rescue. Right now I'm partnered up with a Jack Russell Terrier rescue. So I have a couple little Jack Russell Terriers here that are getting some training and getting them on the right path. But yeah, I want to be Dana, so that's why I'm here.
Me too. So Angela, I'm glad we're doing this. I love this sort of little podcast thing, and we tried it last year or so, and we let it fall by the wayside. So I'm glad we're bringing it back because it is way more fun for me to have conversation with somebody than it is to talk to myself, which usually doesn't very well.
Then the dogs start looking at you funny.
Well, they do that anyway. So yeah, we're going to bring this podcast back to life and talk about a lot of things that relate to how we can keep our dogs healthy and happy and longevity and all of those things. But for Angela and I both, it is a whole approach to holistic wellness, which is nutrition, behavior. We bring in essential oils, herbs, homeopathy, voodoo, whatever it takes to try a solution on these things. And so we just wanted to kind of start over today and talk a little bit about the importance of nutrition as it relates to behavioral issues and how important it is for us to include that in our programs. For me, I have really started to push back on people who won't consider changing their food or doing a detox protocol when they call me and say, my dog has sudden onset aggression, right? And we've been to the vet and we can't find anything wrong with the dog. And I'm like, well, what do they eat? And I had somebody last week, maybe it's a couple of weeks ago, but they're like, my dog eats pedigree. And I'm like, we have to change that, right? This far too high in carbohydrates and fillers and not enough nutrient in the food, and everything about it is synthetic. And I'm not surprised that your dog, who's now turning 7, and has forever had all the shots, all the vaccines, all the flea and tick, all the whatever, and has been eating really crappy food for 7 years, isn't now showing some issues. So do you see things like that in your practice, Angela?
Yeah, definitely. I just spent a couple years training under a national franchise. They had a local Wilmington branch here, and probably 80-90% of my clients came in, whether it was a young dog or an older dog, and nobody's ever talked to them about nutrition though. So that was one of the first conversations I would have when we did a phone evaluation, is helping them understand the side effects of different foods, the kibbles. Maybe you're giving them a whole box of, you know, uh the milk bone treats a week. And so I always started the conversation off with that to help them understand, okay, my 2-year-old dog is jacked up on carbohydrates basically because they're eating, food that's red and orange and yellow colored because, oh, that looks fun.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are receptive to, okay, let's talk about food. And I think that's because they're coming to me already. They already know they're getting ready to spend a bunch of money on training. And once I help them understand, like, this training only goes as far as what you do when the dogs come back home, and it only goes as far as how you're providing for them for the rest of their lives, then the things click.
Right. Because training with you and me is 6 to 8 weeks with some follow-ups, but sometimes it requires sort of a lifetime of a new normal, and
Yeah.
that needs to include some changes to their body as much as to their physical activities and skills and things of that nature. So do you I can certainly revisit the story that I have about the most dramatic change that I've seen, but do you have a scenario story that you can share about where you saw the results of food and or detox or lifestyle changes make a difference in the dog's behavior?
Yeah. One of the first that comes to mind, actually, because she just arrived today to board with me for the weekend. But earlier this year, I trained a young female lab, and she was somewhere between 8 and 10 months old when I trained her. And she'd never had a heat cycle. She was super skinny. She wasn't putting on weight. She had the attention span of a gnat. It took us several days of doing nothing but focus work before we could actually start doing some like real obedience training, because she just didn't have that ability to look at you and go, okay, what are we doing next? And so I talked to her mom about food. I think she was just on some general puppy based food, which for a dog her size, all of that puppy food, I explained to her too, like, this puppy kibble isn't exactly what you think she's getting.
Right.
So we started there. We got her on a good all life stage food. And by the time she finished training, I did a 14-day board and train with her. I switched the food while I had her. So we did that transition, got her training. She came home, and probably about a week or two after she was home is when mom texted me one day and she said, Kenzie's a completely different dog. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
between the training and between her like feeling better, basically, she wasn't jacked up on sugar. She was eating a good, healthy, cooling protein. She's still on kibble, but it was a much higher step up
Right.
brand of kibble. I don't know if you want to talk about brands or not here.
Fine.
Um,
Whatever. We're on to everything.
but I mean, as far as like pet food advisor, this would be like one of your top tier foods
Yeah.
versus starting out on just a pretty crappy brand kibble. But yeah, she had her first heat cycle. She matured greatly, able to focus, even was doing some real off leash work. Whereas before, neither one of us would have trusted her for that. She just didn't have the mental capacity. So she's turned into a really nice dog now. I'm boarding her this weekend, so I think we're maybe 5 or 6 months post training now. I trained her right at the beginning of the year. So very, very proud of her. Big change. It just, that's the first that comes to mind, just because I picked her up today and she's here for the weekend.
So the one that changed everything for me, the one that set me down this path, was a little dog named Bentley, and his story is actually out on my website. And I've shared it before, but I'm going to share it again because we're starting over, and maybe there's a whole audience and everything. But Bentley was a little, I guess he was a Shih Tzu or something along those lines, a little fuzzy, tiny little thing. And he started with me in puppy preschool. We did group class. I did one-on-one because Bentley wasn't learning anything. Nothing we did made Bentley learn to sit and stay, right? And he was becoming a little bit aggressive, and he was becoming just really hard to manage little dog. And his mother was frustrated. And to be very candid with you, I was frustrated with the owner and really said all these issues were her fault, that she wasn't putting in the training, she wasn't doing the work, she wasn't doing whatever she was supposed to be doing to get Bentley under control. And that was many years ago. And it was kind of, I was in that trainer's mindset that you should be able to train anything, right? That training ought to fix whatever. And it just wasn't. So I finally said, send him to me. And he came and stayed at my house for about 2 to 3 weeks because I wanted to see what the problem was. And if it was really the mother's fault, I should have been able to fix it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Couldn't. I'm sitting there thinking that little Bentley has a learning disability, that there truly is something wrong with him. And I was writing up go home notes, things that I was going to sit down and discuss with the mother about Bentley's learning disability. And Wendy Volhard rang out in the back of my head and started talking about cooling proteins, and Bentley being a hot dog according to Chinese medicine. So you mentioned changing the dog that you have into cooling proteins. And I think it sounds like voodoo sometimes to people, and it's not wildly understood if this is a new concept to folks. And so it's hard when you and I start talking about these things for people to sort of trust that changing the food could make a difference in their behavior.
Yeah.
But I pulled out my notes from a workshop that I had attended with Wendy. And again, she spent a lot of time talking about the 5 elements of Chinese medicine and how foods and how they fueled and or heated and or cooled the body. And there's this notion of being a hot dog, a dog that's sort of on fire, easily agitated, maybe aggressive, maybe anxiety, difficulty learning, can't sit still, can't focus, all of those things. And I'm like, Bentley checked off every item. And so I called her and I said, look, I can't make a diagnosis, but I can give you some food for thought, and let's see if we can find somebody who can validate this for us. And wound up taking Bentley to a holistic veterinarian in the Charlotte area, who confirmed, yes, Bentley was not just hot, but he was on fire, right?
Yeah.
Just on fire as a natural way of being a little dog. But then we were also feeding him things like venison in his daily food, which is one of the hottest proteins out there. And so Bentley changed from venison to whitefish, still stayed in kibble. That was kind of before we were doing a lot of raw type discussions, but still stayed in kibble, but like you, went to a higher quality with a different protein. And honestly, within about a week, it's like his training just turned on. It's like he could focus, he could pay attention, he could do the things he was supposed to do. And it's like, oh yeah, I know you taught me that. Now I'm going to show you that I can do it.
Now I can remember.
Before he was just too basically agitated in his own skin to be able to focus at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a situation where, in my opinion, the food alone is what changed his behavior. The training didn't work. I mean, it did, but he couldn't perform it because his brain wouldn't let him.
Yep.
So, and then I mean, I see it all the time where I see a lot of dogs that are in this hot category, that they are really agitated and really frustrated by a lot of things. And for me, when I get a case now of my dog is showing signs of aggression, I want to tell you it's a requirement, and I am pushing back on more and more people to say you're going to have to detox this dog, and we're going to have to look at his food closely and figure out what proteins he can have. And that's part of the equation.
Yeah. I've thought too recently, since I'm changing a lot professionally. I know you and I've discussed it, like when we have new clients come to us and ask about services, about starting the process, but building in that 30 days before training ever starts to say, okay, make sure we're on a good diet. Let's do a detox before we start training, so we have a stable baseline and you're not fighting the change and the training all at once.
Exactly, because had we done that with Bentley years ago, and that's before I knew better, right? Then his training would have worked. But
Yeah.
instead, we went puppy preschool, group class, privates, board and train. We had to do all the things before we got there.
Yeah.
That was just learning experience for me, not really understanding. And I even remember when I started making this switch into nutrition and essential oils, how many trainers laughed at me in workshops and stuff and said, yeah, that's irrelevant. But more and more of them are coming around these days and understanding the importance of all of that.
Yeah. I think there's more study available too, and there's more people doing what you do and getting together with trainers and sharing the other part of the equation that, honestly, if you just went to school to learn how to train dogs and you go to your regular veterinarian, you're not learning those things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, so no, I definitely bring it into all of my behavior cases, and it is not uncommon for me to get some pushback from the pet parent who says, just train my dog,
Right.
right? We have to have, some gentle nudges and sometimes some firm conversations. And sometimes you have to prove it to them. You just say, look, give me 30 days or give me 60 days and let's see how this looks once we've done this.
Yeah. Typically, I will start the conversation with, I can't promise we will meet your training goals if we don't address these other things as well.
Right.
And usually when they hear, okay, you can't meet my goals, what do I need to do? That's sort of the game changer when they start listening.
Yeah. Yeah. What else have you seen in the behavior space? What else affects behavior?
Everything, environment, weight, exercise. It there's the dog obedience is one thing. We can train a dog to be a robot. And people do come to me and their expectation is, I just want a robotic dog to do what I say when I do it, and I don't have to tell them twice. But they're our pets. They're our family for the most part. I mean, yes, people have working dogs, but I'm finding more joy in helping people understand that we can give your dog manners, we can teach them boundaries, and
Mhm.
still let them enjoy life and let you enjoy them, so you don't feel like you have to put your dog in place every time someone comes through the door. That's not that's not the life for a dog, and they don't want to walk in a heel at the end of a 4-foot leash for their entire lives.
Right.
Um, So just incorporating everything. So instead of a 2-week board and train where the dog can hold, a place or a down command for 2 hours, I want the dog to be able to do it under big distractions. And then the focus is how can you be part of life and have boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend a lot more time in real life scenarios with the dogs instead of this formal type of training, I guess you could call it.
Right. I call it lifestyle training. How do you want to live
Yeah.
this dog? And obedience is certainly part of that, but it doesn't have to be this rigid thing like you see in some of these competition level obedience programs, because that's
Yeah.
not how most pet owners want.
Yeah. Or even when you take the dog home from a board and train type program and you spend your hour take home lesson making them heel and making them downstay and making them place instead of showing mom and dad how they can be in the house with everything going on and they're making good decisions.
Mhm.
I'd much rather take the dog home and sit there for an hour, letting the dog just be itself in their home so they can see the changes and just the everyday behavior versus, okay, your dog can heel. They're never going to come out of the heel pocket. Or if I say down, they're going to down immediately and not break that until I've released them. I just, I guess where I'm going with that is the, there's so much more than training. There's so much more even beyond nutrition and wellness. It's understanding your dog, understanding what makes your dog happy, so that you can live harmoniously. Because if your dog's miserable but can hold place for 2 hours, what kind of life is that?
Right. And so for me, I look a lot at the natural instinct of the breed. What's this
Mhm.
dog's purpose in this?
Yes.
And a lot of times we get dogs because they're cute, or we saw it on some rescue site, or we went to the shelter and they spoke to us. But sometimes pet parents are not taking into consideration the activity level or the way in which to release that dog's natural breed instincts.
Mhm.
So I got an inquiry this week, and I'm not currently working with the client, but and in part, I think they're overwhelmed. And one of the things I say to people is it's not just the training, right? It's the food, but it's also the gameplay and the activities and the time spent with this animal for the enjoyment and the release and the things they need. So this is a hunting breed that has been through hunting training, that is not currently hunting, and the dog is losing its mind.
Oh, yeah, the dog's not fulfilled at all.
Not even almost. And so that's one of the things that I said. You're going to are you can hire me for training all day long, but unless you're going to embrace this and invest the time and the energy and the effort, this dog's not, the training's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you got to go take the dog hunting, but you may have to simulate gameplay activities and things that allow the dog to do that in some outlet, in some way.
Yeah.
I've
I,
seen too many dogs go crazy because they can't do what they need to do.
yeah, what's natural to them. I've had some good conversations with potential clients where just by helping them understand their breed better, they're in the end, even if whether we do or don't do training, they understand their dog better so that a lot of times these behaviors that are problematic to them are breed characteristics that you're not going to train away. But at least now they understand why the dog's doing certain things and that I can't make it stop doing that.
Yeah. I had a client, I guess it was last year, had an Australian Shepherd that was starting to become pretty snippy, putting her teeth on lots of people that came in, very protective of the single female owner.
Yeah.
Um, And of course, obedience and learning those, greeting manners and all that kind of stuff is part of the equation. But long story short, we figured out this dog was not getting enough exercise, that a daily walk or a daily, for many people, when I ask, what activities do you enjoy with your dog? They'll say, well, we like to cuddle on the couch. Right. Or my dog plays in the yard with another dog. Well, play is not the same as exercise. It's not the mental skill activity that many dogs need. So long story short, with this particular dog, we bought a cheap agility set to set up in the backyard that the owner started training the dog to play with. And they had a whole new relationship together. Well, guess what melted away? All the behavior issues.
Yep.
Because now the owner wasn't just loving on the dog, but was leading the dog and had real engagement and real fun with this dog in a completely different way. And then the obedience got layered into some of the agility for fun, and everything changed. Everything changed.
I'm sure in that dog's mind, he said, finally, you're speaking my language.
Right. But I want people to understand that a walk is not, it doesn't cut it for most dogs. A walk doesn't cut it for Poppy. She needs to burn it out. She needs to run out that, and I can't run. So, but if I throw the ball or get the flirt pole or things like that, where she tires herself out, then she's
Yep.
satisfied. So
Off topic, would you believe I had a Jack Russell here a couple weeks ago that was terrified of a flirt pole? A little Jack Russell would hunt anything, but she would not chase a flirt pole.
the pole itself.
Yeah,
Right.
she wanted nothing to do with it. Even if the other dogs were engaged, she wanted nothing to do with the flirt pole.
Huh.
Surprised me. Usually those little terriers just it ignites them.
Exactly. It does for Poppy, that's for sure. You mentioned weight, and I think weight can be a topic on its own one day in the future, but how does weight affect behavior?
Well, the dogs don't feel good. I see too many dogs come in overweight. Maybe they're so overweight they're not even food motivated, and there's nothing to make them want to work. That's not the most common case, but the most common case is because of their weight, they can't work as long, so we're only getting 5 or 10 minute training sessions in versus 15 or 20. Especially for a board and train program. If I'm doing a board and train and we can only do, 1 or 2 training sessions a day because you're just exhausted because you're overweight, we're not going to reach our goals.
Right.
And if you don't feel good, you're not thinking good.
Yeah.
So the dogs, overweight dogs, not as motivated, not thinking as clearly because they're probably aching here and there. They don't have the physical stamina to, go do a 15-minute leash walking session because it's just too much for them. And, it also, I see overweight dogs. One of the common things that the owners are worried about is, well, I want my dog's overweight, so I try to let them run or we go for walks, but they're not doing anything to change what's going in the dog. They're trying to make the dog walk longer and making the dog miserable physically, but they're not changing what the dog's eating, how much the dog's eating, the quality of what they're eating. So that's a pretty common thing that I see, and it's funny, but it's not funny. But I've had a client that put their dog on a weight loss food, but they were still giving them. So if you read the feeding instructions on the bag, it says, this many cups for this however much you're okay. So they're giving the dog the prescribed amount of food for what the dog weighs now and not what the dog should weigh.
Exactly.
And it took me so long to help them understand why the dog wasn't losing weight after being on that weight loss food for so long. in activity levels increased. They were doing a lot with the dog, but he just continued to gain weight, and he was a young dog.
Mhm.
So finally we got on the same page as far as, okay, we want him to be 60 pounds, not 80. Because he was pushing 80 and he was a medium-sized lab. And you could tell like he wanted to play. He had the mental capacity to do a lot, but he just couldn't physically.
Yeah.
So
Um, yeah, absolutely. Feed the weight they should be. And understand that those foods, especially kibbles, are really high in carbohydrates in most cases, some of them more than 50%. So depending on what you're feeding, even if you feed for the right weight, it could still be contributing to inflammation and all of those things that make them hold on to weight. I had a client one time, dog very overweight, and I said, how much are you feeding? And they said a cup of food twice a day or something along those lines. And I just couldn't wrap my head around why that wasn't working. Well, it turns out it wasn't a measuring cup of food, it was a big gulp cup of food.
I,
There you
yeah,
go. Let's fix this.
yes. I
Right.
feel like I have that conversation weekly though. My boyfriend helps a lot with the training dogs and the boarding dogs, like if it's dinner time or something. And he'll ask me, how much does this dog get? And I'll say a cup. And there might be a scoop in there that's like a two cup scoop. And I'm like, no, not a scoop, a cup. Let's
Yeah.
be clear.
This poor dog, he was getting like a big gulp, which I don't know how many cups it was, but it was way too much. And I'm like, well, no wonder.
They're like
But
32 ounces.
at least it was bad. And you could just see the light bulb go off when the owner finally realized what was happening. And I don't always see the cup. I just trust,
Yeah.
but I finally pushed enough that said, how many ounces of food? And they pulled out this big gulp cup, and I'm like, anyway. But even if you have like two dogs that have been friends for a while and they're starting to be a little bit incompatible, if one dog is not feeling well because they're overweight, or maybe they're aging, or they're getting some pain from arthritic conditions or whatever that may be, they could start to become more grumpy,
Yeah.
right? So it looks like we now have two dogs that are in conflict, and sometimes it's simply that one of them doesn't feel good because of the weight or the whatever. So just keep those things in mind for everybody. I'll also remind people that I hear all the time, a tired dog is a happy dog, right? And I've seen this wrapped around aggression or separation anxiety, that if we wear the dog out, right, if we exercise them, then we're going to resolve those aggression issues. And I'm like, that is not how that works, right? Sometimes they do need an outlet, but a lot of times, if we exercise a dog, we are building a better athlete who now has stamina and endurance and muscle mass. And unless we fix the state of mind and the emotion and the whatever else is going on, you have a high performance aggressive dog.
Exactly.
So do you see that often?
Oh yeah, and a lot in the sport breeds for sure. Reactive sport breeds that come in, and they're walking the dog 3-4 miles a day, but the dog's so wound up mentally, they're frustrated that they're doing all this work with their dog, and at the end of the day, the dog's still wound up.
Right. I had a client, it's been a couple summers back. They were not from this area, but they were referred to me, and they actually came down here and spent about 3 days with me.
Oh wow.
And I love those sessions. Immersion training, we'll call it. But it's train for the people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
get to stay on the beach and see the ocean at night and do all those fun things and then work with me on the weekend. I love those sessions. But had I not seen the dog as frequently as I did during that, I would have missed the issue. This dog, he was a big, beautiful German Shepherd, but he was overtrained. He had gone to a trainer that does more of the police style training or the competition style training, Schutzen style training, and he could not turn it off. He was waiting on the next command at all times. He slept with one eye open, ready to be alert, because I think he was afraid he was going to get punished if he missed something.
Yeah.
But he was so high strung and unable to physically relax in any environment. And I had seen them for a day, and then they came over the next day, and I watched him getting out of the car and how they put him in a sit stay and he's just vibrating. He was not just like, okay, where are we going? Are we taking a walk? What are we doing? It was like, I am just vibrating, waiting on what are you going to tell me to do next? And it's like I do think he was afraid to miss his command.
Yeah.
And so they were having a baby, which is part of why they were trying to figure out what was happening to him. And I said, we got to teach this dog how to relax. That's job one, right? He was obedient. He did everything you asked him to do. He just was too stressed out to not do it. And so we really had to spend a lot of time teaching him to just settle and be calm and to chill the freak out.
Yeah. Here's how you be a dog. Was it manifesting into aggression? Like, was that the trigger for them?
Aggression, not so much, but when they had people come over, he was guarding, right? He had not bitten anybody. It wasn't like that, but he was definitely on patrol all the time.
Yeah.
And so some of that is, hey, they're natural guard dogs, but B, we needed him to be able to turn it off, and he couldn't. And it took a while to figure out what was happening, but he was overtrained. That was his problem. He was truly over.
So he's happy now and has a baby? Did they do a lot of your clients keep in touch? Do you bug them for updates? I do.
I follow up as much as I can, and then I feel like, I'm harassing them. I wish more people followed up and said how they were doing. I really do, but no, a lot of times I don't hear a lot, even though I'm just going to make a confession, and I need to be better. It's been on my mind all week. I need to send more email touch points and just say, hey, how you doing? Or pick up the phone. And I'm terrible at doing that.
I always think about a client when I don't have my phone to send a text or something and say, hey, how's so-and-so doing?
Yeah. And I bet you're a lot like me, is that you'll just be sitting around and thinking, oh, I wonder how dog X is doing. And it's somebody from 10 years ago or whatever it may be.
Yep.
I don't think people realize how emotionally attached I become to their dog.
Yeah. Well, and because most of my clients are board and train clients, so they're living with me for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And so, yeah, like they're part of my lives. I want to know how things are going, even if it's been 2 years.
Exactly. And if there's a setback, let's talk about it. I'll help you try to fix it.
Yeah.
But going back to this whole topic of nutrition and wellness, I have seen clients maintain longer, better results when they follow through with the nutrition, when they lower the toxins, meaning we reduce vaccines, we reduce flea and tick, we follow the liver cleanse protocol a couple times a year, we follow the kidney cleanse in the summer. And so when we get on those rhythms, I think we manage not only health and longevity, but I think we manage their behavior better for longer. It's more.
So the more invested the client is in the long term, then probably the more they want to update you for the good things, but they're also gonna contact you and something doesn't seem right as well, because it was more than a 4-week training
Yeah,
session and we're done. Yeah.
right. And even if it's a like a private series for 6 to 8 weeks, that's still a lot of time spent with them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the golden tickets about what you're doing and what I'm starting to do is you don't have to come to one person for training and this person for nutrition and this person for essential oils. Like you're bundling all of this into one person, which is easier for the client.
Yeah,
Um, and it builds stronger relationships with
yeah.
the clients.
I'm trying to do less obedience because I'm getting old, but it is what it is. But I had a client last week who had contacted me for she got a new puppy last year. So the dog's almost 9 months old now. And wanted to get him off to good nutrition and off to a good start and learn about what vaccines do I need. So we did all of that as a new puppy. And so she sort of set out on the holistic lifestyle for her new puppy. Well, she called me the other day and she said, I forgot that you also focus on behavior. And she said, something happened and I'd like to talk to you about it. So I called her and she had taken her now 9-month-old dog to an obedience trainer who said her dog had no confidence, had anxiety in this new setting, was not crate. Because what happened is it was the kind of training where you drop the dog off in the morning and you go pick them up in the afternoon, and somewhere along the day the trainer had done some obedience work.
Yeah.
I don't know that I fully understand all of that, because then when do they train the owner, right? That's a big piece of the puzzle for me. But anyway, this trainer said your dog needs to be on trazodone.
Oh, no.
I'm not told. I'm like, absolutely not. 100% no. There's no trainer and no veterinarian that should ever tell you your 9-month-old puppy needs to be on trazodone. And to be honest with you, if you come to me for training, I don't care how old your dog is, he's coming off all the drugs
Oh, yeah.
before we start training.
Yep. That's why I tell them all. I want it's okay. I want to see your dog at its worst. If I'm gonna help them, I have to see them at their worst. No drugs.
Exactly right. So
Yep.
it's a big important piece of the puzzle. So she's like, well, I'm not gonna put, I didn't think that was right.
Oh, I'm glad they reached out.
And so I have a lot of training information on my website, even the the basic sit, stay down, stay, come and call, place kind of stuff. I said, go read it. Call me if you have questions. We'll do some remote videos if we need to, but find a new trainer because this one's not helping you.
Yeah.
But yeah, trazodone for a 9-month-old puppy that was stressed out because he went to a new environment, got shoved in a crate. So yeah.
Probably an environment with a lot of other barking, stressed out dogs too.
Yes, doggy daycare. That's exactly what it was.
Yep.
Yeah. So what else is on your mind? This has been a good topic.
I should have made notes.
That's okay. We're gonna come back and do it again every couple of weeks. We'll cover many, many things.
There was something I had just thought about. The I can't even think now.
Well, maybe it'll come back to you. In the meanwhile, tell people your business name and how they can reach out to you if they need to.
Yeah, so I am 456 Canine Wellness and Behavior Coach. 456 Canine Coach at gmail.com. That's my main point of contact right now. I'm working on finding a graphic designer to help me get a website and all of that stuff rolling. So I'll be official soon. Or
Yeah.
at least I'll be I'll be able to be Googled soon.
Yay.
Um,
It's,
I've had such great success just by telling current and past clients what I'm doing, and they're sending me people that were waiting for whatever reason to get training or whatever it may be, and now it just kind of took off. I haven't had to do anything, thankfully,
yeah,
to
there's
this
no better
point.
marketing than a happy client or a referral. There just
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah.
Um, she, it's numeric, number 4, number 5, number 6, and then Canine Wellness
Canine coach. Yeah.
spelled right.
The email address is number 4, number 5, number 6, the numeric numbers, Canine Coach, CANINECOACH @gmail.com.
I'll make sure when this goes live that will be where everybody can see it spelled out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I have a very clever meaning behind the number concoction that people keep asking me about too.
I,
So it actually once I have some marketing stuff rolling, 456 is going to be sort of my tag. It stands for 4 paws, 5 directions, 6 tricks.
mhm.
So we're tying it all together just in my little 456 tagline. So very, 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 very excited to sort of
Las Vegas came up with that.
be, oh, that's right. Yep.
And so for people who are wondering, the 4 paws, 5 directions, the 5 directions is based on about the 5 element theory of Chinese medicine principles.
Yep. And 6 tricks just because I needed a number that was in succession to 6. So
And I had somebody the other day, a marketing person, and what am I going to do about it? She's like, the well-oiled canine, that name just doesn't make a lot of sense. I was like, thank you. It
it does if you know.
does for me if I think about essential oils, but the sad part is I haven't been talking about essential oils much lately, but that's about to change in the next 48 hours. I promise. I've got to have things I'm working on that are going to
So
start going.
exciting. I'm always excited for your new projects.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much. And I'll get this edited and we'll go from there.
Right. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on the Wellwood Canine Podcast. I'm Dana Brigman, your canine nutritionist and certified holistic care health coach. I hope you found today's episode valuable and inspiring for your journey towards better health for your dog. Don't forget to visit me at thewellwoodcanine.com and check out our members forum for lots of discussions, interactions, education that you won't find anywhere else. That's at members.welloilcanine.com. So join the community. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps me reach more pet parents just like you. So until next time, keep your pup well-oiled, well-fed, and well-loved.